Hi, Kim Brasser. I was just listening to some clips from about four different guests that we had early on, maybe season 2. And oh my gosh, the thread that has run through now, not just one story one woman tells, but across stories of women I've interviewed is freaking amazing. So today you get to hear Kathleen Kent, who is a white woman doing postgrad work at a black college, and what it was like for her first semester, to come in with all of her assumptions about how she moved in the world as a professional woman and find it challenged by the norms in a culture that she hadn't been exposed to. It's amazing, short little clip, worth the watch. And then we had Gina Hatzis, the Too Much Woman. Love her platform and everything. But she is very clear about how most of us rally around the pole of not enough. And when she did her first speaking about the Too Much Woman, it started a whole movement because women have felt it but haven't dared name it. When a woman changes internally, the world shifts around her, and nobody exemplifies that more than Alexandra Beller, who is a professional dancer. And she talked about how that inner work that we do, beginning with breath work and with deconstructing the conditioning and the beliefs that we've grown up with. It's not enough to have mental assent as it is to be able to look at what that does in our body and how that comes out through our actions, behaviors, and words. Fabulous. And then wrapped it up with Christian Ortiz. He's the creator of Justice AI, Decolonial Artificial Intelligence, and it is so good. And he just reminded us that it's a continuous improvement mindset, this growth along spiritual lines and understanding other cultures and challenging the existing systems, even when it comes down to who programs AI and who programs the children's minds who are using it. Fabulous, worth it. Love sharing these with you, and I hope you enjoy. Let's talk about tennis shoes.
Okay, so that's how I first got an audience on TikTok. I made a joke. I said, if you're a white person thinking about attending an HBCU, you have to go get new shoes. You're wearing the wrong sneakers, I promise. Or if you have good ones, they're dirty. And I went on and on. And I was totally joking. And this is another situation where I just assumed everybody would receive me as joking. Some of the comments were really upset, saying that I was like making fun of an HBCU and saying people only cared about fashion. That wasn't my intention. I thought I was just making a joke about myself and my old, sad, dirty shoes. So walking around the HBCU, I noticed that all these college students have really cool shoes and they all look brand new. And then I'm interning at a mostly black high school, and all of those kids have really nice shoes too. And I was wearing my Birkenstocks with my toes out, which my Gen Z neighbor tells me is not cool. You're supposed to cover up your toes now. So I was going shopping and just made a joke on the internet, and people started being like, "Why are you there?" And I told them what I've told you, and it's been really, really interesting because I've had a lot of comments from a lot of my followers are Black people in helping professions. They're counselors, teachers, and a lot of people have said, thanks, this will help me understand some of my clients. And I hope that I'm giving people a little window into how my mind has had to do these gymnastics to like reconfigure how I'm thinking about things and how I'm perceiving myself and other people, and hopefully bridge some little gaps. And so my professors were very focused on welcoming us into academia and being like, okay, now you're not an undergrad, you're one of us, you're assisting us, you need to take your academic authority kind of thing. And so that's where, and many of them would be like, well, call me by my first name because, you're on a different level now kind of thing. And that's what I expected in this program. And so I'm in there speaking very casually, just like we're friends. And then all of a sudden I'd get like a sarcastic response. Or on a Zoom call like this, I'd raised my hand and said, respectfully, sir. And he really snapped at me and said, could I please finish, Miss Kent? And I was like, whoa, what's this guy's deal? And then I understood that part of it is just this program is not the same as my other, but um, what I realized and what has been echoed in the comments is it, it, titles are very important to Black professionals because they've had to work harder to get there, and specifically coming from a white woman who, they're not sure if my casualness is friendliness or if it's disrespect intentionally. That's what I would recommend to people. Ask the people around you who you feel like you have a good relationship with, and probably that's not going to be a Black person at first. If you have some people who are really working on social justice issues, ask them, what do you think I need to do better? Where do you think I could improve? And if you're vulnerable and can listen and not be defensive, you'll learn a lot.
Right. And the fact that you have immersed yourself in that culture so that you can be better at serving in social work speaks volumes to your courage of not knowing what you don't know, but not
Right.
being so afraid of being challenged that you
And
wouldn't do that.
yeah, I think there's just a lot to be learned if you are able to let your guard down and be okay with being embarrassed. Um, and I have learned a lot of just really small things. Like, for instance, I think before I had attended this school, if I was working with an older Black client, I would have thought that it would show them respect to treat them like an equal. Like if they're in a vulnerable position and I'm the authority trying to provide them with resources, like, shouldn't we call each other by first names and be comfortable? No. Now I wouldn't do that with a client. I wouldn't assume. And I think it's better to err on the side of formality rather than to be perceived as disrespectful.
And it birthed a book, it birthed a movement, and it birthed a global tour. And that was actually my master's degree in Too Much Woman. I delivered the speech from a really authentic place. I thought no one would understand it. Most of the women that I work with tell the story of not feeling enough. So I thought me telling the story of being a too much little girl, a too much woman who's been told her whole life that she was too sensitive, too emotional, too loud, too bold, too ambitious, physically taking up too much space, too voluptuous, all the ways that I was told that I was too much or wrong. I thought no one would understand because that wasn't the language that I had heard with the women that I had worked with. But what I'd learned since that time, once I really unpacked it, is that the story of being told we're too much is actually the opposite side of the same coin as being told that we're not enough. And how we as women, and I think this is pivotal for our conversation today about what's going on politically, how we as women can use our too muchness to leverage our strengths, to celebrate how we are too much, and to actually let that lead so that we can make change in the world. There is nothing that brings me more joy than talking specifically about this topic. And I will tell you why personally, and then I'll tell you why, from a professional perspective. For me, I spent my entire childhood with chronic sore throats. In fact, more than my childhood, into my 20s, into my 30s. I was an otherwise very healthy child, but a couple of times a year, I would have a chronic sore throat, and it would be so bad that I'd have to get on medication. I couldn't swallow, I couldn't chew, I couldn't do anything. And it was just the oddest thing because otherwise, like I said, I was extremely healthy. It wasn't until my 30s where I started to make the connection, looking at the work of Louise Hay and others, understanding that what was going on was I was swallowing my truth. The throat chakra, I literally was not speaking the truth of how I was feeling. I was afraid to speak up. I was hiding so much. I played into the good girl hand. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to belong. These are biological needs, right? And we don't want to make any of these wrong. They're vitally important. I think that what happens for a lot of women when we recognize that we've been people pleasers and we've been doormats and we've been just trying to be harmonious because we've been groomed to believe that that's what a good woman does. But what we've come to recognize as we start to heal those parts of ourselves is that there's a space in the middle where we rest. And in this space, we recognize that we can't fight our biology, and we shouldn't fight our biology. We need community. We need safe places. And so back to your question about finding the voice, one part of that, yes, is really tuning into, as you said, during the pandemic, like without all the distractions, what do I have to say? What do I want to say? What's important to me? What are my core values? Not the core values passed down from my mom and dad or from my culture or from society that says this is what a woman should want and what should be important to her, but what's really important to me. That's where I start with my clients, like getting very clear. And from that place, when we want to have the courage to step up and talk, it's vitally important that we're surrounded by people who will hold us in that space. Because if we don't, and here's what a lot of women do, I work with so many brilliant women at the top of their game. They're so successful, they're on fire, but here's what we do. We self-help ourselves in solitude. We read the books, we take the classes, we listen to podcasts, and we do it like when we're driving in the car, we do it like late at night. But when we don't do it in community, what happens is we get this surge of inspiration and courage. And then we go out in the world and maybe we post something on social media, or maybe we say something at work, or we speak up in our relationship and we get our hands slapped. We get some criticism or someone pushes back, and then we start to shake. We retreat back to that little unhealed girl or that part of us that is so afraid, and we stop until we can start to build up the courage again, and then we try again. And so this is why community is vitally important.
So all of the ways that the systems get reinforced, and by systems I mean white supremacy and misogyny and heteronormativity and all of the ableism and all of the systems that we live inside, those systems get reinforced and create structure inside of us. And in order to change the way we think and observe and respond, we need to move things around on the inside. To move things around on the inside, we need to understand the inside and how to move things. And so just the act of changing your breath is an act of shifting something on the inside with your mind. And that is an essential first component. There are a lot of components to anti-racism and anti-all the isms. A lot of it is, being able to observe on the outside how things are operating, cause and effect, and, using logic and analysis to observe the world and say, oh, well, this plus this equals that, but this plus this doesn't equal that. Okay, so those maths are not the same. And, so we have to be able to look on the outside and see systems. And that's a fairly cerebral and analytical activity. And that's one that commonly happens in anti-racism work. Look at the way this person's treated in this situation and the way this person's treated in the same situation. Those are not the same. That's not justice. Let's change the system. Let's legislate around it, make rules around it, etc. That's all outer work and all essential. But there's inner work that needs to happen, and that part often doesn't get talked about nearly as much. And the inner work is I need to really look inside and shine the light on how the system has sculpted me. And if I can't see the inner sculpture of racism and sexism and homophobia and all of that inside myself, I can't move anything. So I can go to a protest and hold up a sign, and I can fight for the rights of others on the outside and feel that I'm doing a great job, and I am doing something, absolutely. But there's work that I have to do on the inside, and it requires me knowing myself, and it's a lot scarier work in a lot of ways than, fighting on the outside. And they both need to be done. I can't just sit here and rework my insides and then sit on my bum. I've got to, do something in the world with it. But I do think a lot of us are taking action in the world before we've taken action inside our bodies. And, I think not all the work done on the outside is performative. Certainly, like you stand up for somebody in a meeting, or you say, shine the light on somebody, or you spend your money in better places and don't tell anybody about it. You can, do real action on the outside. And of course, sometimes it can be performative, and sometimes it's real, and that's necessary work. And it has to be bolstered by that inner work. And when we talk about the continued work of anti-racism, I think what we're often talking about but not naming as explicitly as we could is inner work to undo the sculpture of the inside of us that got crafted by this conditioning in our education, in the books we read, the movies we watched, the ads we saw, the way that people talk to each other, the way we watched people get treated, and we grew up with that. And it's not possible to just have a logical thought, that's not fair, that's not equitable. There's all this inner stuff that is shaped by that. And not only for white people, this is for all of us, right? We're all shaped by this
Love it.
system.
And that's part of this journey, right? Is when we learn better, we do better. And I mean,
We
it's
do.
just the constant theme. I treat it like the universe is parenting us. The universe just says, you know what? Let life humble you, and you're gonna learn as you move along, and you grow and grow and grow.